Welcome to Meet at the Table where warriors are forged. I'm your host, Don Jarrell, and let's get started. This evening, our topic is Say No to Bitterness. And yes, I copied a slogan that was, I think, maybe back in the 80s or the 90s, and that was Say No to Drugs. And yes, we need to say no to drugs, and drugs can be harmful. All the things that comes from that. But let me tell you what is more harmful to us than even drugs. What is more harmful to us, and what so many people have allowed in their lives, is bitterness. And so, again, that's why I said say no to bitterness, because bitterness can have a worse effect on us than any drug could have. And I want to give you this verse. Hebrews 12:15 says these words: See to it that no one fails to obtain the grace of God, that no root of bitterness springs up and causes trouble, and by it many become defiled. And so I want to just break that down, right? Because when we choose bitterness, and it is a choice, you can choose to become bitter. You can choose to say no to bitterness. And I can too. It's a choice that we can make. But when we make the wrong choice and we choose bitterness, then we are hurting our relationship with God. When Jesus was teaching as far as the model prayer, and what did he say? He said, forgive, others basically as you've been forgiven. We are to forgive men their trespasses just as God has forgiven us. And if we fail to do that, he said that if we won't forgive, we won't be forgiven. Now, we're not talking about salvation there, but we are talking about fellowship. And so if I'm choosing to harbor bitterness and I'm choosing to harbor unforgiveness, and I'm not forgiving somebody that is reaching out wanting forgiveness, and I'll come back to that here in a minute. But if I'm choosing to not, they're extending an olive branch and I'm not taking it, then I am hurting my fellowship with the Lord. I'm literally severing it, because then the Bible's clear. God's not forgiven me. God will not be forgiving me for my trespasses, because he's saying, look, they're asking you for forgiveness and you're not offering it. And so you're not offering forgiveness, and therefore he's not offering forgiveness, because we reap what we sow. But then the other thing is we hurt our relationship with others. The writer here to Hebrews says, lest any root of bitterness springing up in you, it troubles you. I'll come back to that in a minute. And therefore many be defiled. So it's not just, bitterness is going to hurt me. And it's not just that bitterness is hurting my relationship with the Lord, but bitterness will hurt my relationship with others. And you've all seen it. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen the person that they've been bitter for, 20 years now, all right? And I got every right to be, I got every right to be bitter. And they're just, they look like they've been sucking on lemons all day long. They have no joy in their life or nothing. Why? Because bitterness literally will hurt you too. Someone once said bitterness is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. How true. And so this person has become bitter, and so now they're just a sourpuss. They look like they've been sucking on lemons all the time. I don't want to be around somebody like that. I don't want to be around somebody that, is negative Nelly, just mad at the world. I don't want to be around somebody like that, because if you hang around somebody like that long enough, your attitude is going to be as bad as theirs. So I don't want that. I need to be around somebody that is, going to get me closer, that's going to, inspire me to get closer to the Lord. I need to be around people that's going to build me up. I need to be around people that's going to encourage me. And I want to encourage them. And that's why I'm doing this. And that's why I've been doing these things, because I want to be an encouragement to others. And so we've got to say no to bitterness. And one of the reasons why so many people, and it's really prevalent in the church, and that's sad. I have been pastoring now for, 20 some years. And I have found that there's as many or more bitter people in the church than they are outside the church. And that's sad, Because those that are in the church, man, they've heard the gospel, right? They're claiming to be saved. And so they know what Christ accomplished on the cross. They know about the atonement. They know about all these things. And so knowing about it, they know this. Their sin, my sin, put Jesus on a cross. And so even though I wasn't in the crowd that day, and even though you wasn't in the crowd that day, even though they wasn't in the crowd that day, everything he endured, he didn't just endure by the hands of those people, he endured by the hands of us too. And so basically, we whipped him, we mocked him, we ridiculed him, we denied him, we laughed at him. You know, we done all these things. We put the crown of thorns on his head, we led him to a cross, we drove nails through his hands and feet. I mean, we're guilty of all those things. But then yet Jesus said on the cross, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Did he have a right to be bitter? Yes. Could he have been bitter? Yes. But he chose not to be bitter. And not only did he choose not to be bitter, but he set us an example to follow. And Paul wrote about that in Colossians chapter 3, verse 13, and said, as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must. He didn't say, think about it. He said, you must forgive. So let me say this, okay? If somebody has attacked, persecuted, maybe done you wrong, whatever the case might be, they're not asking for forgiveness. They have hurt and they have basically went on, wiped their hands of you. Well, and that, let me tell you what you do. You wipe the dust off your feet. You try to make amends, but if they close the door, you wipe the dust off your feet. You choose not to become bitter. In other words, okay, they did it. I would have made this thing right, but they're not accepting it. So therefore, I'm not going to become bitter. I'm not going to let what has happened, bring something even worse, and that would be me becoming bitter. But no matter what it is, if that person, maybe they've hurt you, maybe they've done wrong, but that person comes and they extend an olive branch to you, and they want to make this thing right. At that point in time, the only option you have, the only option I would have, is to extend the right hand of fellowship. That's it. Anything other than that, I am choosing the wrong path. Anything other than that, I'm choosing bitterness. I'm not being Christ-like if I won't accept their apology. If I will not extend a right hand of fellowship, I am not being Christ-like. And so, what do? And that's why it's so important. And I actually did a little part of this in the message Sunday. It is so important for us to be Spirit-filled. Because human nature is to be bitter. I mean, let's be honest. Human nature is to be bitter. But I can't let the flesh lead. I need to let the Spirit lead. And so we need to be Spirit-filled. Because here's the thing. We cannot be bitter and be filled with the Holy Spirit at the same time. Thank you for tuning in to Meet at the Table where Warriors are Forged. If you like the content, please click the like button, hit subscribe, turn the notification bell on, and until next week, I'm your host, Don Jarrell, signing off.